Hi, my name is Vic Verchereau, and I serve as the Vice President of Marketing for Farm Bureau Insurance. I have had the privilege of serving the Farm Bureau organization for over 30 years. I began as a regional representative and have enjoyed visiting with some of you on your farms over the years. Michigan Farm Bureau is the parent organization of Farm Bureau Insurance, and our history together runs deep. Farm Bureau Insurance was founded in 1949 by Michigan farmers who wanted an insurance company that worked as hard as they did, that gave honest service and cared about Michigan's future. In fact, Farm Bureau Insurance pioneered the nation's first farm owners policy, the first policy in America to cover the insurance needs of the entire farm operation. Today, we protect over 70% of all farm acreage in Michigan and work every day to do the best job possible for Michigan's farmers. As a successful Michigan farmer, you constantly look for ways to minimize the risk that impact the success of your farm operation, and you expect no less from your insurance company. That's why we're conducting an assessment of all of the farms that we insure to make sure that they're properly covered and so that we can assist you in identifying potential risk before there's a problem. The farm assessment will be conducted by a well-trained team of farm field underwriters who work for Farm Bureau Insurance and are familiar with the farms in their area. These underwriters work closely with your Farm Bureau Insurance agent during the process. You'll receive notification about your assessment within 90 days of the actual visit. You'll have the option to contact your agent to schedule the review. Once the underwriters have completed the farm review, they'll let your agent know the results. Your agent will work with you and be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Over the next few minutes, we're going to go along with two farm field underwriters as they assess two different types of farming operations. This will give you a good idea of how a farm assessment works.
We're on a livestock operation today. And typically when on a livestock operation, or any farm for that matter, what I try to do is go in a circular fashion around the farm. I start with the dwellings, then I move on to the buildings per location, whether it's a grain operation, dairy, hog, vegetable. A farm is a farm, and we do pretty much the same thing on each farm. We do our inspection, get measurements, look for safety hazards, and so on and so forth. So, like I said, they're all one and the same. You know, you get these older homes where they've added a garage over the years. It's a two-story here. They put on a porch, and what a lot of people don't realize that, you know, even from the loss control standpoint, from us field underwriters, we have to determine values on these with the agent, and so it gets a little complicated to make sure you measure the home correctly so you don't overinsure or underinsure those scenarios. Here's a liability exposure that a lot of us field farm underwriters address probably on a daily basis. A lot of people have trampolines, and trampolines are what I like to call back breakers, neck breakers, and ankle breakers. But we will accept them on the farm, and the big thing that we look for to have them acceptable is that they have to have the jump net on top. The kids have a less likelihood of falling off the trampoline and injuring themselves. This is one of the other issues that we seem to be finding a lot of, is older shingles on buildings. In this particular building, these shingles need to be replaced, and that's a recommendation that you know, we'll give them 45 to 60 days. It's summer, it's a good time to replace shingles. Several years ago when I was out here doing an inspection, this particular office building had asphalt shingles. They were showing their age and so on and so forth. The farmer has chosen to put steel up. To be honest with you, I kind of like steel myself. It tends to hold up a little bit better. They don't tend to build the asphalt shingle like they used to. We just don't have the insurance claims with steel, it seems like, typically.
We're out to a vegetable operation today, and they grow the lettuce on a seasonal basis. So they're not growing it year-round, and we have a number of ways that we can insure your farm personal property. One being what we call a peak season endorsement. What we can do for you is you can list the months that you have the lettuce or produce or flowers while you need coverage for that, and we'll list them for a few months out of the year. However long you need it, but then we list the other months where you don't have any inventory, and we list those as 0, and then our premium is based on a 12-month average to where you're not paying premium on something that you only have on a seasonal basis. We're just getting ready to take a look at the farm shop here. The main thing we're looking for are housekeeping issues, cleanliness. We want to make sure that there's a fire extinguisher posted inside the building, welding tanks are chained, and any sort of heat source for the barn. So when we come out to the farm, we generally like to take a look at the shop and focus on these issues and see what kind of condition the shop is in at this time. What we see here is an electrical system for a grain handling complex that's no longer in use. Our insured is going to be removing the grain lag along with the grain dryer, and which are currently listed on the policy. What we want to remind you of is once you make those sort of changes, once the dryer is removed, be sure to call your agent, because we don't want to be charging you premium on something that you no longer own and that's no longer serviceable.
One of the safety corrections that we typically look for on the farm that are a fire hazard are the electric fencer. What happens with the electric fencer that when they're inside is lightning is such a weird animal, and what it does is it finds the fence and then takes these and blows them off the wall. And what's in most typical barns? Combustibles. We've had a numerous amount of barns over the years burned down due to electric fencers blowing off the wall. Whether they're grounded or not, most of them are. You can tell this one is grounded, but they still, because lightning is such a hard electrical factor to control, it still will blow these off. So typically in this situation, what we do is we ask them to move them outside the building on a post. They can be right next to the building, and you need to cover them, because typically it says in the directions, if you keep them out in the elements, it's going to damage them. So in this scenario, I'm going to ask them to move it outside on a post right next to the building is fine. If you notice this, they put a new electrical system in this building, and everything is on the outside. Everything has covers, and it's all in conduit, and that's a huge positive, and it's nice to see from an underwriting and a loss control perspective. This is one of the fire hazards that we find on a lot of our farm operations. If you look in this building, you see a lot of cobwebs, and if you look over to the right, you got an old electrical box, which isn't super old, but the cover's off, and look at all the cobwebs inside. And then if you look up behind here, one of the birds started to build a bird nest behind it, and so on and so forth. This is what causes a lot of our fires, and people don't even realize it. Everybody's busy, but this is one thing that we're going to address in our safety corrections. One of the other things we look for from a safety type standpoint is the slow moving vehicle stickers or signs on the back of the tractors. We typically try to run through a lot of your machinery storage buildings, even when they're in storage or not in storage. But right now, most of these guys are in the field this time of year, but we're able to see that, you know, this tractor and that one out there has one. So that's a good thing.
What we have here is an outdoor wood burner that heats the greenhouses for the operation. With this not being connected to a home, we're going to ensure this structure, this wood burner, as an outbuilding. This wood burner is over 10 feet away from the structures, which is what we like to see when it comes to the outdoor wood burning stoves. There is no structure around the wood burner, which is also good, because even though these are outdoor stoves, they still have clearance requirements to combustible materials. Another thing that I noticed on this wood burning stove is that it is UL approved, which is another thing that we're looking for, is the proper certification of the stove as well. Now's a good opportunity to discuss wood burning stoves in general. We've been focusing on proper clearances and proper installation requirements on wood burning stoves, along with the disclosure of a wood burner on any wood burner that's on your property. If you happen to have one in your house or in a building, we want to make sure that we come out and take a look at it. Contact your Farm Bureau agent. He'll come out and fill out a solid fuel report, take photos of the unit to make sure it's installed correctly. Something else that we want to make sure is that you're cleaning the chimney appropriately and regularly. We prefer if you hire a chimney sweep to come out and clean the chimney, but that's not required. We understand that a lot of our farmers will clean the chimney themselves. But the main thing we want to see there is that you're inspecting the chimney, making sure that it's in good working condition and that it's clean. The majority of the fires that we have with wood burning stoves are actually chimney fires.
This is some of the things that we look for in a lot of these milking operations, the bulk milk tanks. This increases the value of the building. The other thing we look at If you come down here, we asked the farmer how many milking stalls that they have. And that's where you get a lot of the value in these buildings. It's not the pole structure itself, because if you look at this is all insulated. And then if you look in here, count how many stalls, and there'll be a lot of your huge value right into this equipment right here, even though it's in such a small area. Typically, we don't have too many sump situations in buildings, but we happen to have a sump pump situation here. You know, really, we don't have to address a situation like this very often, but it's a whole situation, and it could be a possible work comp claim or a liability situation if somebody was just visiting the farm and happened to step their foot in there and twist their ankle. But so, you know, quickly, I'm just gonna, you know, part of the safety correction, you know, make them put a cover over the top of this. This is a doorway where they don't have a handrail here. Typically, we require under 3 rises, but I don't know, I just gut feeling that this probably scenario should have a handrail here. It may or may not be used that often, but I'm going to make a recommendation and see how it goes.
What we have here is a sign showing that this farm is MAEAP verified. We offer a credit on our policy for the verification of the farms, and if you happen to have gone through the MAEAP plan, contact your agent. We'd like a copy of your certificate, and we'll be sure to get that credit applied to your policy. In this structure, we're finding a lot of built-ins that may not be accounted for in the value of the building. The current insurance value appears to be a little low to me, and what I'll be doing is I'll be working with the Farm Bureau agent to run an evaluation on the structure itself, but some of the built-ins that are in this structure I may not have a factor for on my evaluation. What we do then is we contact the agent, we note the built-ins that we noticed in the structure, and we're going to be coming back to you, the insured, to get a suggested value on them because we want to make sure we have the building insured to value. You know, God forbid we have a total loss, we want to get you back in the place where you're at right now. With this vegetable operation, they are involved in farmers markets locally, along with owning a CSA operation, which is community shared agriculture. We're seeing more and more with the promotion to buy local of our farmers participating in these activities and getting their product out there for retail purchases and consumption. We want to make sure that you're properly covered on your insurance policy when you're selling retail, whether it be a farmer's market, a roadside stand, or a community shared agriculture. We want to make sure that we put the business operations endorsement on the policy to have you properly protected, not only for like a slip and fall purpose, but also for product liability for the produce that you're selling. If you happen to be participating in these operations, be sure to give your agent a call. We'll discuss gross receipts with you, and we'll get the proper coverage in place for you.
As you notice, the insured's building a brand new building here. One of the, how do I say this, frustrations from the agency side and from the company side, mostly from the agency side, is that the farmer will be building a new building and they won't call the day that the material is dropped off to add the building. So what happens is they'll get the building done 2, 3, 4 months later and then say, hey, I got a new building up. Well, there's a period of time there where we only provide coverage in the policy for new construction. So if they go over that period of time and the barn blows down or burns down while it's under construction, there's no coverage. So, you know, our suggestion is as soon as construction is started on a new house, a new barn, whatever new that you have, call your insurance agent that day or the day before you're going to start anything for that matter. This is another issue we just found. It was an accident, and they probably hit it with the skid steer or bobcat or whatever, but the post has been severed, we could say, and it needs to, you know, they basically need to repair it and so on and so forth so it doesn't ruin the severity of the building. So that's going to be a safety recommendation that I'm going to make. So behind me is a manure pit, and typically with most of your manure pits we require them to be fenced. You can't see behind you right now, but they have it a metal girder here, and there's a fence on the perimeter, and they do fence that off on that back side. So there really isn't any access to this particular manure pit unless you're an employee of the farm or the owner of the farm. You know, most farms are growing. Either they're retiring, growing, but you know, this is the type of farm where they want to hand it down to the kids. The kids eventually want to take it over. So if you look at the the front part of the building, you notice that that's the old part of the parlor, and as you span this way, you notice that, okay, they've added an addition here, they did some remodeling, they put a freestall on, there's a walkway in between, they added another freestall, the walkway. What we're finding and what everybody needs to understand from the farmers to the agency force to the underwriting force is that if it's connected, it's one building. It's one building, and we insure it all as one building. So if a farmer calls up out of the blue and just says, hey, I just built a new building. Well, one thing they need to reference is to see if it's attached to another building or not attached.
What we have here is fuel storage for the operation. Some of the things I like to see here is the fact that there's a containment system in case we have any sort of spill. In addition to that, we've got the concrete posts there as well, which help with as far as any sort of vehicle or machinery protection from those units there. And then the storage facility is 40 feet away from any structure, which is what we want to see for gasoline storage. This is a very nice setup, you know, very well maintained, and this is another thing that we focus on when we come out to the farms. As your farm grows and you purchase more machinery, large with higher value machinery, and try to be more efficient, what we're finding is our farmers are looking to be hired out for custom services. If you're doing a custom farming, custom harvesting, or custom spraying for a fee to other local operations, we want to make sure that we have you insured properly and we get the proper business coverage on your policy. Be sure to contact your Farm Bureau agent for any sorts of services that you may provide for a fee, and we'll do our best to help you out and get that insured on your policy.
One last thing we need to address with farming operations is irrigation systems. Anytime you add an irrigation system to your operation, we need to know, and you need to let your agent know, what you have purchased and what you have done to the farm to include that irrigation system. One, we have a new well dropped here. We have an electrical panel that's been added, and each one of these are instrumental in how we insure them, because the irrigation pivot we insure under farm personal. The wells we insure under our outbuilding section. So make sure you contact your agent as soon as possible to make sure that you have insurance on this.
So that's how a farm assessment works. They're vital to the safety and profitability of our farmer clients and help assure that properties are properly protected. As your insurance company, Farm Bureau Insurance is committed to Michigan's farmers and their mission, protecting the people of Michigan from the risk of everyday life. We thank you for placing your trust in us, and we're proud to be the #1 protector of Michigan's #2 industry.